I think there's another saying that I like a lot, which is it's really hard to hate close up.
I think a sign that you've healed is when you don't allow yourself to hate somebody or hold a grudge because you understand what's happening and you can observe from a centered place of growth and healing. And you've given so much forgiveness to yourself, you've given so much grace to yourself that you can't help but extend that to others. Let me share a story. I was on a trip with a friend and we hadn't seen each other in a very long time. And I feel like it was right at the end of a very long and tenuous growth period on my part. I had gone through a series of losses and I was forced to do a lot of inner work. I was forced to look at my shadows. I was forced to look at ways that I hurt people. I was forced to look at ultimately ways that I hurt myself. And I came to love those parts of me and to hold so much space for them and so much grace. And I really reached a place of Zen. I really reached a place of like internal peace with who I am, my life up to this point, and really a lot of gratitude for this person that I had become because I had cultivated so much peace within. And I fiercely guarded that newly cultivated peace. So I met my friend for this weekend. We hadn't seen each other in a very long time. And suffice it to say that my friend wanted to engage in a lot of the behaviors that I had engaged in with her. So absolutely no surprise there that, the last person that I was in the relationship with her was one that wanted to party hard, wanted to stay up late, wanted to seek validation and distraction from outside sources. And it was a very, very chaotic energy. And I don't judge it because it was me. And that was what our foundation of our friendship was based on, was that chaotic looking to outside sources to fill some hole, to meet some need. And so she was engaging in a lot of these practices over the weekend. And I was trying to kind of maintain a balance between engaging, having fun, but also fiercely protecting my healing and my boundaries, which mean I don't stay up all night. I go to bed on time. I'm not abusing alcohol. I'm not abusing drugs. I'm not abusing sex. I am having a good time, but I'm also honoring myself and I'm honoring what I need to cultivate that homeostasis and peace within. And towards the end of our weekend, we were sharing a room. She wanted me to do something that really just didn't feel right to me. And it was a small request. It was to have a guy I didn't know stay in our hotel room overnight. I did not feel safe with that. I needed to go to sleep. The request was brought to me in the early morning hours of the night after I had been sleeping by myself for a good amount of time. So I may have been more aggressive. I may have been rude in the way that I delivered, that I didn't feel comfortable with him staying the night. But I honestly got to the point of having to be more upfront and more assertive because I had told her a few times before that I wasn't comfortable with him staying in our hotel room, and it was ignored. So I felt disrespected and I felt like she was not listening to me. And so I was more assertive in saying, I do not feel comfortable with him staying in our room. And she wanted to hash it out that night. She was very angry. And I said, can we please talk about this in the morning? When the morning came, she was still very angry. She did not understand that I just didn't feel comfortable, that my intuition was telling me it wasn't safe. And I honestly feel like I really kept my cool in the conversation because I had kept my cool all weekend. I had been mainly sober for most of the weekend and she had not. And so I was able to observe where she was at in her life. And I was able to understand that she is still in a kind of a precarious, erratic place in her life. And I love her. And I remember very clearly times that I've been in that erratic place in my life. And so I could kind of observe and understand what was happening. And I couldn't be mad at her. I couldn't act in an aggressive, mean, hateful, spiteful way because before this trip I had cultivated just this really solid sense of love and peace and homeostasis in my body. And I just was not willing to get in a fight with her. I was not willing to engage in like a contentious back and forth because, again, I fiercely protect my healing and that homeostasis and that peace. So I wasn't perfect. There were times where during our discussions over the next 24 hours, I lost my cool. But for the most part, I am proud of the way that I handled it, because I did try to end the weekend with love. I did try to approach her with love. I tried to approach her with patience, understanding. I never relented on my boundaries. I never said that I felt that the decision was wrong, because I still don't. I still think that the decision was right. The decision honored my own self-respect and boundaries. And she ended up leaving the weekend early. And we actually haven't talked since then. So all I can do at this point is look at it with logic and see all of the points I mentioned before. Honestly, really honor the experience, honor the way that I handled it, because I looked at it with understanding. And I'm not placing myself above her, and I'm not trying to judge her. I'm just seeing what happened, therefore forgiving her, forgiving maybe myself in the ways that I didn't show up the way that I would have liked to, but I honestly have very little regrets. And that's what happens when we act from a place of peace, and we act from a place of sobriety and self-respect. I wouldn't change anything about the way that I handled the weekend. And I may have lost a friend over it. But that is what happens when we cultivate a sense of dignity. We cultivate a sense of hard-earned peace. We will protect it fiercely. And sometimes that energy is off-putting to people. Sometimes, especially people that we've had a relationship with in the past that has been based on something else or has had a different dynamic, the new dynamic just doesn't work anymore. And that's okay. We can let those dynamics and those relationships go if they do not honor our highest good. And we can do it in a way that comes from a place of understanding, love, and forgiveness.